Welcome to SAT TV News. I'm Alicia George, your presenter. In our top stories, Roseau Central Power Rep demands apology from Minister of National Security. Water in Latin America and the Caribbean is of key importance to feeding the world. Executions rise in 2013. China tops the list. And in sports, Windies secure much-needed victory against Australia. Details of these will follow.
The wheel of change is here at SAT. New and exciting rewards just for you. SAT customers simply pay your bill and get the new Loyalty Plus plan for free. That's 26 channels absolutely free for a limited period. Yes, you heard me, free. And if you do pay your bill, you'll have a chance to win big with SAT TV. Up to $15,000 in prizes are up for grabs. 7-inch tablets, BlackBerry smartphones, food vouchers, and much, much more. Get more from SAT TV, the people's choice. SAT terms and conditions apply.
Welcome back. Minister responsible for water resource management, Honorable Reginald Austrie, has praised the government of Dominica, who he says has demonstrated its caring nature for signing an agreement to commence the Salisbury Water Project. The project, funded by the government of Dominica, forms part of the West Coast Water Project, estimated at $31 million, $2.54 million of which have been allocated for Lot 3 in Grand Savan area.
The Grand Savan water supply will provide the residents of Grand Savan and Salisbury with potable water for the very first time. In the past, Grand Savan has been served sporadically by water created for an irrigation system, which was really to provide water for farming. Now, you well understand that this water is not treated, it's not purified, it's farm water. And this is what the persons from Grand Savan have been utilizing for several years, several decades.
The water project will include the construction of a 60,000 imperial gallon tank and construction of 885 feet of road and associated work pipes.
The provision of water for at least 500 families or residents who would be impacted on by that water system. Several property owners who cannot build because of lack of water are now given an opportunity to construct their own homes. And you can see what will happen in terms of employment and construction when all these people, both here and overseas, would come down to build.
Later this year, another contract is expected to be signed for commencement of the Bells Water Supply Project. The government strives to bring pipe-borne water to every community by the year 2015 as part of its Millennium Development Goals. In more stories, the groundwork has been completed for the first phase of an agricultural census for Dominica. This comes after government, acting on the advice of international consultant on agriculture census, Mr. David Marshall, decided that the country's census on agriculture would be conducted in phases. Mr. Marshall has over 32 years of experience in doing similar work in several parts of the region and around the world. He was on island from February 24th to March 18th, 2014, working with relevant stakeholders, including the Ministries of Agriculture and Finance, and in particular, the Central Statistical Office, to advance plans for the census. A successful pretest of the agriculture census was conducted in 4 areas of the country to prepare for planning and conducting, and several adjustments have been made to the overall approach based on the recommendation of the consultant. The specific objective is to enhance the capacity of the Ministry of Agriculture to provide timely, accurate, and useful information and services that stakeholders need to make informed decisions. The agricultural census is funded by the Programme for the Banana Accompanying Measures (BAM) from the general budget of the European Union. In other news, today, March 28, 2014, a number of officials from across the OECS attended the last session of a 2-day Geothermal Conference dubbed Driving Geothermal Development: How to Realize Geothermal Potential. The workshop is a collaboration of the Government of Dominica and the International Development Group, Global Bilateral Division of the New Zealand Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Trade, and focuses on furthering geothermal potential in OECS member states.
We have been able to navigate through the element that carries the most risk We have departed from merely the exploration process, and we're now in the process of developing the resource. It is important and very instructive to note that as on the 1st of March 2014, this month, we completed the production well with no incident or accident.
Dominica has been recognized as being the lead among Caribbean countries in efforts at developing geothermal resources as an alternative to fossil fuels. In order for Dominica to successfully develop this type of resource, Mr. Brian Carey, Senior Project Manager for Geothermal Sciences at GNS, noted that cooperation and agreement between the people and the government is first needed, as well as getting persons to understand the long-term benefits of this move.
You need to move your nations forward with you. Develop a stable framework for longer-term investment. These are long-term aspects. New Zealand's been there for 60 years. To get your projects off the ground, you need something in the order of 15 to 20 years of a stable revenue stream coming back in. So investing requires a stable political framework. You need surety of the resource for that period of time. So you need wise decisions made around your sizing and your developments put in place. And you need surety of revenue adequate to finance the ventures.
Mr. Carey noted that billions of dollars have been spent in developing New Zealand's geothermal power, an investment that now richly benefits the country.
It has assisted us in security of supply and in energy independence. It is now part of a significant green energy profile for our nation. If I look back over the last decade, there has been significant investment in New Zealand. There has been over $2 billion New Zealand dollars spent in the last decade on geothermal electricity facilities. That has resulted in significant experience and expertise that resides in New Zealand right now from that expenditure. And the other aspect that I'm really interested in seeing is the enjoyment that New Zealand will get for decades from the investment that it's made in its geothermal resources.
The Commonwealth of Dominica's geothermal energy exploration commenced in 2011 and is expected to accommodate a 15-megawatt plant for domestic consumption that would significantly reduce the cost of electricity on the island. The government has already invested over $31 million in exploring the island's geothermal potential. The next phase involves shutting down the wells for a 12-week period to monitor progress on the generation of heat. In more stories, a parliamentary representative for the Roseau Central constituency, Honorable Norris Prevot, is demanding an apology from the Minister of National Security following an incident which occurred at the Fort Young Hotel on the morning of Thursday, March 27, 2014.
The United Workers' Party Team Dominica calls on all right-thinking Dominicans and the international community to add their voices to the condemnation of the actions of the government of Dominica and the Minister of National Security, Prime Minister Roosevelt Skerrit, in having the police escort the opposition United Workers' Party representative, Honorable Norris Prevot, an MP for Roseau Central, out of the workshop.
He said the minister should also apologize to the Roseau Central constituents for the incident. Mr. Prevot believes the geothermal project has serious implications for the people of the Roseau Valley, so the government has a duty to invite the opposition and villagers from the affected areas to all deliberations as it relates to geothermal development in Dominica.
Government's neglect to include the opposition is another one of the undemocratic dictatorial actions of this government to marginalize the opposition. It shows clearly that the government does not really intend to include the stakeholders in a meaningful way in significant development in Dominica.
Mr. Prevot noted what concerned him is the fact that scientific research has not been done to accompany the forward development, and such issues would have been brought up at the workshop, which the government does not want. The MP added the Roseau Valley and Roseau accounts for 60 cents on every tourism dollar spent in Dominica, so a cost and benefit analysis must be conducted before embarking on such a large-scale project. He said if not conducted properly, it could have a negative impact on the tourism industry of Dominica. In related news, press attaché in the office of the Prime Minister, Mr. Darrell Titt, has described the parliamentary representative for the Roseau Central constituency, Honourable Norris Prevot, as a nuisance. He made the statement after confronting Mr. Prevot during a geothermal workshop on the morning of Thursday, March 27, 2014, where it is alleged a brief verbal argument ensued.
Mr. Prevot tried to walk into a function he was clearly not invited, he was clearly not a part of. It was a function of the New Zealand government and the OECS Secretariat, which was facilitated by the government of Dominica because it's being held in Dominica. It was a geothermal workshop for senior government officials and government ministers. He's none of those. So the man was just being a nuisance, his usual badly behaved type self. He does it in Parliament, he does it outside. This is customary of Norris Prevot, and I expect nothing else.
He stated the opposition United Workers' Party is not part of the government, and as such, they were not invited to the workshop, particularly as they have been speaking negatively about the geothermal project. Mr. Titt downplayed allegations that this was an attempt to silence the opposition from speaking against geothermal energy.
I am not sure what Mr. Prevot thinks is disrespect. I had a brief interaction with Mr. Prevot. I referred to him as I'm referring to him now, as Mr. Prevot. I asked him point blank if he thinks he's a government minister, to which he responded after he's going around saying he's disrespectful.
However, Mr. Prevot says the manner in which Mr. Titt spoke to him was an abuse of his position and an attempt to bring down the name of the public service for his own gain and to gain favor with government ministers.
The remarks he made on media are remarks that the public service should take up with him, because it's just not acceptable for any junior person in the public service to be speaking to whether it's a minister or member of parliament in such disrespectful a manner. I would not disrespect any worker in the public service, whether it's a messenger, a cleaner, or permanent secretary. As a member of parliament, I know I owe them respect, I give them respect. And similarly, all workers in the public service owe their seniors respect, owe the members of cabinet respect, owe the members of parliament respect, and should give them, especially when they are on duty.
In other news, SAT Telecommunications has rewarded 5 lucky customers in its first ever Pay and Win promotion. The promotion, which took place at the SAT office on Friday, March 28, 2014, is the first of 3 draws expected to take place between now and June of 2014, where customers can win a share of $15,000 worth of prizes.
There are lots of good prizes. This is the start of things to come from SAT. As you know, we're 6 weeks in now, and this is our first promotion.
The winners were Roma Melinda Florent from Tranto Casa Bruce, Danny Fergus from Bath Estate, Felicia Antoine from Louvier, Rosetta Tavernier from Scott's Head, and Francis Edwards from La Plaine. Prizes included 2 7-inch tablets, a BlackBerry smartphone, and 2 $200 food vouchers.
Don't forget those of you on the outside. This is SAT Telecoms, the people's choice. We do things bigger. We do things better. We are number one because we know that for sure. You got to be number one by coming home to the SAT family. If you're not there yet, it's because you are not listening attentively. We are the people's choice. We will see you next time. Keep it locked. You're watching the only TV that matters in Dominica, SAT TV.
The next draw will take place in April. In order to qualify, all you have to do is pay your bill, and you too can be a winner. And in court news, a pregnant Aracelius Rodriguez is facing 6 months jail time if she fails to pay 2 $1,000 fines. The Dominican Republic national, who resides at Palm Grove, was arrested and charged with battery on Melissa Bernard from Maho and being armed with a knife without having a satisfactory reason for the possession of the offensive weapon. The incident occurred on 24th March 2014 at the Maho playing field, where the 2 women were involved in a physical altercation, prompting an onlooker to alert officers at the Maho police station. When the officer arrived, he met both women sitting on a stand, informed them of the report, and arrested them both on suspicion of disorderly conduct. While in police custody, Ms. Bernard said she was sitting on the stand when she was suddenly attacked by the defendant, who attempted to stab her. The defendant agreed that that was indeed the case, and Bernard was released. However, charges were filed against Ms. Rodriguez. In court on Thursday, she told Chief Magistrate Candia George that the knife was in her hands at the time of the incident, but she had no intention of using it. "I was just so frustrated at the time," she told the court. She was fined $1,000 for possession of the offensive weapon, which is to be paid by 31st May 2014, or in default spend 3 months in prison. Additionally, a $1,000 fine for battery was imposed, payable by 31st July 2014, or 3 months in prison if she fails to make the payment. In more court news, 29-year-old Luis Jose Andriego, a Venezuelan national who appealed a sentence he received by a magistrate in February 2014, had his appeal granted by the justices of the Eastern Caribbean Supreme Court on Thursday. Andriego had pleaded guilty to illegally entering the island through Goodwill on 12 January 2014. He was sentenced by Magistrate Bernard Paquette to 1 year in prison and a forthwith fine of $5,000 and an additional 1 year in prison if he was unable to pay. Andriego was unable to pay the forfeit fine and faced an additional year in prison. At the Court of Appeal on Thursday, his attorney, Tiani B. Hansen, appealed the sentence on the ground that it was too harsh and found favor with the appeal justices. This has been the local segment of the news. Coming up next, regional highlights.